I'm Heidi Harris. Glad you're here. Don't forget to check out my podcast on Heidi Harris Show, all the major podcast platforms. And I do these videos. I put them at YouTube, Rumble, HeidiHarrisShow.com. This is the second of my videos targeting the Vegas Grand Prix, the Formula One, and the damage it's doing to Las Vegas. My previous video featured a woman who is representing many business owners who have lost a fortune due to the race and all the destruction that happens months and months and months ahead of the race. So please check that out. I'll put a link. Joining me now is one of the most popular guys on X in Vegas history, really. He's got over 200,000 followers. Everybody pays attention to what he says. He's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on in Vegas. He's always going to the casinos and the events and letting people know. And he gets a lot of really good information that people don't necessarily want attributed to them, and they feed it to him. His name is Vital Vegas. You can find him on X, formerly Twitter, at Vital Vegas. How you doing, buddy? How are you?
It never actually changed. I have never called it X. I think we're in the same camp on that. It's ridiculous.
Well, because Twitter was a verb. It's an adjective. You know, it was all kinds of things. And now X is like, what? We all have X's. Your point? Makes no sense.
Some of us have more than others.
Some of them talk, some of them don't. I pay few off.
How have you been?
I am doing just great. Absolutely great. And I've been watching with interest your tweets about Formula One. You've been one of the few people in town from day one who has called this stuff out. The disruption to traffic, the disruption to everybody's businesses. I just talked to Lisa Mayo, who represents some of these business owners who've lost millions of dollars and are going to do that again because the county commissioners don't care what happens to the little guy as long as they get their tickets to this fancy event. So talk to me a little bit about what you're hearing on the ground, because you're always out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's painful because the folks involved, F1, the local officials, are touting how much better it is than last year. So it was an absolute disaster last year. So I guess it's better than an absolute disaster. But that doesn't make it not a disaster. It's basically the timeline has been compressed, 9 months plus of disaster last year. Making all the same mistakes this year, but somehow thinking that if you compress it, it's we're getting poked in the eye. But if you're being poked in the eye for less time, now it's a win, And I saw another story today. They were talking about, for the most part, it was a huge win for Las Vegas last time. Like that narrative, it's really hard to stop, because that's how it's described in these major publications by major media outlets, because that's what F1 is saying. Local media is always pretty much useless because they're just reiterating what they're told. But even in these bigger publications, they just overlook all the facts. And when the LVCVA or F1, they tout all the financial success, they literally are only extracting that information from one column. Here's revenue that was possibly generated. That was a big win for everybody, right? Without taking into account all the other evidence of that it crushed Vegas. It crushed hundreds of businesses across Las Vegas. It was locals places. It was places downtown. It was places you would never imagine got hurt. That impact is less this time because the negative chatter is less. I'm doing it less because I don't want to give them any more promotion, but it really is. That's a long answer to a short question. But the overall, it's still a nightmare if you're trying to get anywhere near or around the Strip. Other places have tried to do kind of counter programming, like downtown has this big free music festival, because one of the surprises of all this is that F1 is not all that popular. And F1, even if you take out the component of tourists avoiding Vegas because of F1, it wasn't enough to fill up the town. So downtown is faced with having to figure out its own way of filling up its rooms, because F1 didn't do it. And so essentially, for the folks that may not be familiar with the situation, about 4 hotel casinos benefited from F1 last year. So it's the ultimate kind of have and have not situation. F1 freaked out, the LVCVA freaked out because they realized people weren't just going to play along again. So multiple lawsuits the first year, more kind of, just people raising the red flags because everybody wanted to see how it went last year, but now they know it's a disaster. So we're just seeing a lot more visible. The shows are really upset because it really is killing the shows. Many are closing during F1. Others are changing their schedules during F1, just ridiculous, jumping through hoops. And so Vegas sold its soul. And we saw it last year. We're seeing it again this year.
Any
Sorry.
chance that this will be the last year of them doing it? I guess they're supposed to reevaluate it afterwards, but so many people say it's a disaster. Well, some people don't, but those are people who are benefiting financially from it. But for everybody else, it's a disaster. Any chance we can put a stop to this?
I think there's a possibility, but it would be probably after the 3rd year. They kind of committed. F1 has spent so much money on that headquarters building. It's like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They didn't wait to see if it was going to fly because F1 is just has this arrogant vibe that
Oh,
of
yeah,
course
right.
Vegas is going to love F1. It's going to bring so many, benefits to Las Vegas. It's going to be a 10-year thing. I think that the local officials, the county commissioners, they heard the issues last time. They really impressed upon F1 that you need to do something about this. We can't have this town shut down 9 months for a 3-day event. But I don't think they're thrilled now because they're still seeing the same disruption. It
Right.
was just not well thought through. They kind of, the LVCVA, the Convention and Visitors Authority, saw this kind of shiny little thing that their job is to bring these events, and for them it was a big coup, a big win, but they really gave it no thought. And I don't think they realized you are ruining the Las Vegas Strip for months. That
Right.
person who wants to see the Bellagio fountains, that person who wants to stand on an overpass and take a picture of the Strip that they're going to send to all their friends and cherish for a lifetime, that view is blocked. You
Right.
cannot see the Bellagio fountains from Las Vegas Boulevard. That's where people stand to take these iconic images. Like I don't think they thought it through, and I believe that they think that financial benefit to those 4 casinos outweighs all those other concerns. I don't, because I gamble at Ellis Island. It is like a prison surrounding this place. You have to you can't get there from here, basically. And it's same for all those gas stations, all those restaurants along the route and in kind of in the neighborhood. It's just impossible to get there. And we're talking about employees, trying to get to their jobs on the Strip. It's this huge footprint, and it's just a mess. Even if it was a mess for a month, it's not worth it.
No, I don't think so.
A
And I
month
want to stop you. I want to
ruining
stop
it.
you there. I want to stop you there with Ellis Island because a lot of people may, if for people who are not in Vegas who are watching this, Ellis Island's right there, just east of the Strip, right there, Flamingo and Koval. It's a great little place. Been there forever. Karaoke. You posted something about it today. I was dying laughing. Did you know that karaoke actually means empty orchestra in Japanese? Did you know that?
Did you know that another translation, it means bleeding ears? So
You know what? I
interesting.
think that's a better one, and that especially but the point is, it's a local place, been there forever, and a guy like you who could go anywhere, you like to go there because it's a nice local place. It's easy to get into, at least it was, prior
Usually,
to all this
yeah.
mess, and easy to get out of. And a lot of people who are locals who like to go to little casinos, little bars, places like that, like to go. They don't want to have to walk 6 miles from their car and pay for parking and all the nonsense. And those are the people who are getting hurt the worst by this kind of situation. And you're seeing it at Ellis Island and some of these other places. What are you hearing about Uber drivers who aren't going to work?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own kind of you would think for them it would be a coup, right? Because you're gonna get surge pricing in the middle of F1. But I think there are layers of the folks who just don't think it's worth it. And I think it's rideshare drivers. I think casino employees, it extends to them because they saw that last year they got a small bump, but it was again just in these very few places. In most places, they were hurt by it.
Right.
So even to the extreme of closing a show because you can't sell, not only can't sell tickets, but your folks can't get to the venue.
Right.
So it really has, it had all these unintended consequences. Rideshare was one of them. Shows was another. Um, shows tend to be hurt during maybe like these big music festivals because the room occupancy will go up. But when kids are going out to the speedway, they're not they're not gambling, they're not drinking because of the issues with mixing drugs and liquor. Like those unintended consequences they're fine for 3 days. People gripe about it if their show doesn't do business during EDC, but we're talking about an extended period of time. It's not just during the race. And I think that was the part that they really had a miscalculation on, was beyond the actual 3 days of mess. What's the impact going to be? And how far is it going to extend? People were shocked because the traffic at a locals casino, typically at a stations out in the valley or Boulder Highway, you wouldn't think, why would this affect it? But the whole idea of coming to Vegas and having Vegas ruined by gridlock traffic or inaccessible, venues, or not being able to see the view from a popular place to see views on these crosswalks. They're now completely. Last time it was film. People were pulling the film off of these, and now they've got these big kind of plastic things that cover, and they've got the cages on top, so people don't throw, beer bottles onto the onto the route. But so I think they just didn't think it through. The LVCVA was so starstruck by having a arguably very popular event in other cities, but it's a few thousand people. And the other day they got a special event permit that had a capacity, I think they estimated 100,000. Well, the last year they were like, well, 300,000 people came. Well, those numbers are always made up.
Yeah, that's
And
that's every weekend in Vegas, right? I mean, on a busy weekend,
thank
right? That's
you.
called Friday night.
Thank you. And when they calculate the economic benefit, it's all of Vegas during that time period. I'm like,
Huh?
you can't do that. You can't like pull in revenue that's being spent at some casino in Boulder Highway as part of F1's benefit to the community. Like, it's just sad. And I think this is one where there is the sense that there has to be some accountability, because you can't just make up numbers. You can't BS the public. You can't disrupt so many people, so many lives every day. And
Right.
every day I'm having road rage every time I try to go to Ellis Island. People are sick of it, but you know what? I'm sick of it. I can't go to one of my favorite places. I can't get to Silver Sevens. You can't even really get to these strip casinos easily because all of the lanes have been reduced so they can put up these lights and these barriers for weeks at a time. So you're sitting in this traffic just cursing Europe, Europeans, the French, Van der Stapp. You're just cursing anyone you can think of. And unfortunately, I have a Twitter platform, so that's where I do my.
Oh,
I've,
I
I've
love
tried
it.
to,
We all love it.
I've tried
That's
to
hilarious.
cut back because I'm just tired of seeing the local papers talking about what a success it is and how everybody's excited. Like they're regurgitating what F1
Right.
says because
Right.
F1 obviously has a vested interest. Local politicians, they've been very quiet because I think they know there was going to be a full-on mutiny
Right.
of
Yeah.
businesses and citizens. Like you can't ignore that outcry. So I think they've been very quiet. It's been kind of wait and see. I don't know how you tell F1 you can't do it anymore after the third year because they've invested so much in that building, in that headquarters. So I think it's a mess.
Well, they should
But
have, what they should have done is they should have done it out of town. Going back to what you said, I want to make sure I clarify. People don't know what EDC is, Electric Daisy Carnival, which is when it first came to town. I had my doubts. I'm like, really, we want to bring this thing with the feathers and everybody out at 4 o'clock in the morning? But it's out there at the racetrack, at the actual racetrack. It's a big event. I mean, they have some drug arrests and things like that, but in general, it's not a mess. The traffic out there is a mess, but the traffic on the strip is not any worse than any other day. And local businesses aren't hurt by it because everyone's going out there to the event. And my thinking is the racetrack always should have been, for the money they spent on that stupid little chalet or whatever, they could have built a racetrack in the desert somewhere. Sloan is a good spot. Anywhere they could have built it. And people would have gone, and it would have been, they wouldn't have things like, remember last year when they had a manhole cover flopping up and hitting a car and things like that? They would have complete control of it. They would make sure it was done correctly, and it would be their thing.
yeah, it's all about the photo op. It really is like they've paid an entire town to be the backdrop for their event, which
Yes.
is it's just patently absurd to think about it that way. And you barely see the strip during the race. Like the way they tape it, it's not really evident that it's in Las Vegas. So it's almost like so those are perfect examples of how they didn't really think it through. Like, what benefit do you get from this event theoretically being seen around the world for all the F1 fans, whoever they might be, mostly the French? What benefit do you get of additional tourism from those folks? Do you get any? Is there any bang for the buck for the sacrifice that we're making?
No.
And it took actually doing it to see it as a sacrifice, because in their minds, this is all gain. This is 100% gain. It's an event that hasn't happened here, and we got this event. But now we know that if you measure everything, it's a huge mess, and it's damaging Las Vegas.
Right.
So now you got to decide, if something's damaging your town, what do you get out of it, and who gets it? How much is it spread around? So and there were so many meetings behind the scenes. Wynn, Caesars, MGM Resorts, they were having, I was invited to one before I was uninvited, where they're like, we got to get everyone on board,
Right.
because this is so great for Las Vegas. Everyone benefits, blah, blah, blah. They have this whole narrative. I'm like, no, the people holding these meetings are the ones that are benefiting.
That's right.
And you're trying to get everybody else to shut up, like people in social media. It was literally expressed to me. Everyone needs to get on board. We'd appreciate
Wow.
support, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you think I'm going to shut up? Because it's somehow good for Las Vegas? It's not. There is almost no measure where it's a benefit.
Right.
Unless you're including like the parking fees at the airport for the private jets. It's a positive for the airport.
That's interesting. So they came to you because you, once again, have a platform. You've got over 200,000 people. A lot of people follow you, plus your website, vitalvegas.com, podcast and everything. You've got a heck of a following of people, many of whom don't live here, who are interested in what's going on in Vegas. Of course, everyone's interested in Vegas, but you do a great job of that. So they tried to tell you to get on board. That's fascinating that they saw the power that you have and they wanted you to just get in line.
Yeah, I think they know they kind of have their, they have open lines of communication with the local TV and with the Review Journal. They don't tend to be critical. So they have to go after kind of the squeaky wheels. What do you call them? Yeah, squeaky wheels. And I love being included, like I love when these CEOs are like, oh, you should come to this meeting. But I think because the weird part is they want to shoot the messengers of this message, which is like, it wouldn't be true if we didn't have anybody talking about it. As in social media, you drove away tourists by telling them that it's gridlock for 9 months.
That's right.
And I'm listening to this going, what are you talking about? I'm telling people facts, and they're coming to the same conclusion I'm coming to. It's hurting more than it's helping.
Right.
I'm not being negative. I'm saying I'm in traffic again today. Again.
Yeah, well,
It's
you're looking out
multiple.
for the little people, though. That's
Thank you.
always kind of how I've seen myself doing talk radio for so many years. I'm sticking up and going, "Hey, wait a minute," and speaking truth. What do we want to call it? Truth to power, whatever. Standing up for the little guy because the big guys will not do it. And somebody's got to be the rock in their shoe and go, "Wait a second here. I have a question." And that's what you're doing. And that's what bothers them is that they can't control the narrative. They're used to having LVCVA and all these people who are just getting on board, getting online, rah, rah, it's great for Vegas. No, it's not. I've been here long enough to remember years ago, somebody came and actually sold, I don't know if you remember this, but the old city hall, they put like $75,000 worth of plastic on it in different colors. The guy came to town and it was like literally plastic. And I wish I could find a picture of it. And I mean, but that's, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. Well, of course it's going to be great. It's not your money. There's no benefit to the community. And you're blowing somebody else's money to try it out. So you can get good seats in the risers where the trees were all cut down in front of the Bellagio. That's really what it comes down to. You want to schmooze with all these wealthy people and you don't care who it hurts because you don't pay attention to the bartender or the waitresses or any of these people. You don't care. They don't live in your world. And you stand up for them. I stand up for them. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Completely agree. These are public officials.
Yes.
The LVCVA is paid for through tax dollars. The county commission, these are elected positions. These are the folks that should be advocates of the citizenry. They are advocates of the casinos, and they're not even advocates of all the casinos. They're advocates of 4 casinos in the case of F1. And I think it's unusual because normally I think they would shake it off, but I think they're hearing so many people being so public, and the local media is like, we're hearing so many of these stories. We have to publish stories about, the owner of Ferraro's or the owner of this gas station who lost 90% of his business for months. And Ellis Island, like this is they sued them. It didn't really go anywhere. And I'm just like, keep suing them because they put up this headquarters right next to this business that's been there, like you said, for so many years. And now they got to deal with this nonsense. And the irony about Ellis Island is they're like, well, we're going to sue them, but we're also going to sell F1 t-shirts. and we're going to have a viewing package. Wow. They had one last year. It didn't do very well because the Ellis Island customer and the F1 visitor, that Venn diagram does not really overlap that much. There's no Ellis Island. They got eggnog, not caviar. But
exactly.
That's indicative of many businesses that are impacted. Shows are absolutely slaughtered during that period of time. They are killed. They cancel, they change times. There's nothing they can do. And it doesn't matter how loudly they've been yelling. It doesn't seem to have any impact with the LVCVA or with the county commissioners.
Yeah.
So I was hopeful it'd be one and done, but I'm thinking maybe 3 and done, and it will have been a failed experiment. And we move on and we find events that we love. Super Bowl, fill the town, 2 or 3 days.
NFR, woo! Happy to have NFR, right? We love that. Super Bowl,
rodeo during a slow time,
right?
F1, that was one of the big selling points too. Is like it's happening at a slow period. Well, you're making a slow period slower. You're not
right,
and you're forcing people to create a new event like this downtown music festival. So that's good, but they're doing it out of anger and frustration because the downtown casinos were going to riot. The LVCVA they dodged a bullet. That's why they gave them $1 million to get some talent, because they knew there was going to be an upheaval and it was not going to be a slow, quiet, behind the scenes kind of protest. They were mad. And the owners, CEOs, Boyd doesn't get mad. It's this big corporate. They were mad too. Everybody was mad. And it remains to be seen if any of that's going to have an effect. All the room rates are down. The F1 packages, they're giving them away. So I'm not going to say it's an unmitigated disaster. They say it's an unmitigated success, which is a complete lie. But it is a negative overall event for Las Vegas. And at that point, you have to reevaluate. You have to either change locations, or you have to say, sorry, F1, we're sorry, keep your headquarters, have it be an attraction, F1 attraction, or some year-round thing where you can try to make some of that money back. But we can't be having this race in Vegas
No.
every year.
Or
Sorry.
we can implode it. We do that real well. We call a little Wazos, call CDI, controlled demolition, and get them over here. Hey, listen, they just did the Tropicana, so they're good at this. We have no respect for history in this town, so you know how it is. We're happy to blow things up. I'm not, just saying we could do it in a controlled way, but yeah, bye. That would be good. Listen, buddy, great to talk to you. Thank you for the information, and thank you for being the rock in the shoe of a lot of these people, because you have a huge platform and you're using it, in my opinion, correctly. Because these people have to be put on notice. They're used to controlling everything. They're used to the cheering squad for everything they want to do, with zero consideration for the little people. When I say little people, they're living in the world of these politicians who think they're better than everybody else. And I'm not who I am. I'm just a worker bee. And I get mad because I feel their pain, been there, done that. And it's important that we think about them too. That's what it comes down to.
Completely agree. Oh, did I mention they invited me to F1 actually reached out and invited me. They're like, we'd love to show you one of these VIP suites, and we'd love to host you for food, drink, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not a county commissioner. Why are you think I'm going to go to this thing? I can't dream about it for 2 years and then go, you know what? I really enjoyed the food, and they had an attractive waitress. So I think F1's great for Las Vegas. They're barking up the wrong tree.
Hey, listen, we have politicians in this town who will sell their souls for far less than a steak dinner and a cute waitress. I think we all know that, my friend, and we see it.
Yeah, some Southwest gift certificates seem to go a long way with certain county
and remember when they were
commissioners.
putting money in stuffed animals? Remember that? And Crown Royal bags.
Vegas is always going to Vegas. Oh my goodness.
It's always going to Vegas. All right. Thank you, my friend. VitalVegas.com. And you follow him on X, Twitter, whatever, at Vital Vegas, and get the scoop about Vegas for sure. Thank you, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you.